Hello! I am now filming my February to be read list. So I try not to get too overambitious with my to be read list, my TBRs, because if I put too many books on them, then I feel stressed like I have to do them, and then I don't end up actually reading them, and it's a chore and I don't enjoy it. So this is a pretty light list of things that I'm really actually excited to read. I don't ever put anything on my TBR that I'm not pumped to read. So let's get started. First book that I'm hoping to read in February, which I've actually already started, I'm like 136 pages in, is Lyrial. And this is the sequel to Sabriel, part of the Abhorsen trilogy by Garth Nix. And if you have not read Sabriel, I recommend it. It's one of probably my favorite series. I think the only real complaint that I have about these books is that the romance is not well done. It's kind of just like, oh, it's there. I don't really feel very passionate about the romance, but otherwise I really think that the world's pretty cool. Setting for this is the northern half of the world is part of the Old Kingdom, and the southern part is Encelstiere. And Encelstiere has, it's like almost like 1920s and 1930s. There are tanks, there's electricity, there's technology, but that doesn't work in the Old Kingdom, which is governed by magic. And these books, the Abhorsen trilogy, the Abhorsen is actually one person, and it travels through the bloodline. So, you know, when one Abhorsen dies, their child would then take over and become the Abhorsen. The Abhorsen is the person that is they're a necromancer, and they are supposed to keep all of the dead creatures dead, and binds them using a set of necromantic bells to the world of the dead, and they can actually even travel in the dead. The one cool thing I like about the Abhorsen series is that instead of picks right up where the last one left off, it actually follows different characters. So, you know, in the first book it follows Sabriel, and in this one it's following Lyrial 14 to 18 years after the first book. So I'm enjoying this so far, and I'm excited to finish it off in February. Next book that I hope to read in February is A Vow So Bold and Deadly, and I do not own this. This is actually from my library. But I read the first two in this trilogy last year. It is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. I wasn't super huge, crazy big fan of the first two books, but I think I like the second book more than the first, and the second book heavily focused on a character that I think was not emphasized enough in the first book. I kind of just want to read this to finish it off and get all the answers of what happens in that world. A good thing to note about these is there's actually one of the main characters has cerebral palsy, so I think it's awesome that there's representation in that. Next book I plan to read in February. It is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. Oh, this is a big book. I've read everything else in the Grishaverse. Grisha, I say Grisha. Yell at me in the comments if you say Grisha. But I was not super huge on the Shadow and Bone trilogy, but Crooked Kingdom was my jam. And I just finished King of Scars last month. And I am the kind of person that if there is like an unliked female character, if there is a woman who is powerful, owns it, is a little bit bitchy, like I'm here for it, because a lot of times women standing up for themselves and placing boundaries and being powerful people can often be like the unliked character. So I love Zoya. So I am eating this series up right now. The emphasis that there is on Zoya. And of course, we all loved Nikolai. Like, he was the best part of the Shadow and Bone trilogy. So the fact that we get Nikolai gets his own story, I'm here for it, and I'm so excited to read this. I'm actually taking a flight to Austin later this month, and I plan to just, the entire time I'm on the plane, I'm going to be reading this book. The next book that I'm going to be reading in February is Summer Night by Jim Butcher. This is the fourth book of the Dresden Files. I read the first three. Like, so for some history, these books are my partner's like favorite book series ever. On his bequest, I read the first three, and it took me a long time to get through the first three, like literal years of trying to read them. And were not my jam. There was a little bit of sexism happening. Not Obi. My partner assures me that it gets better after the 4th book. Like the 4th book is like when it finally starts like really taking off and being an awesome series. So I'm giving it one more shot. I'm going to try and read these books because he loves them so much and we love a lot of the same stuff. So I don't know why I'm not falling into them like he is, but I'm giving that one a try again. The next book that I plan to read in February is not a book, but it's actually a comic. My cats are losing it in the background. I don't know if you can hear that. The next book I plan to read is not actually a book, it's a comic. It's Umbrella Academy's final installment, Hotel Oblivion. I've read the first 2, but this one I actually have not read. So this is going to be brand new for me. And I did just recently reread the first 2 trades. Do you hear that? So I am a huge My Chemical Romance fan. I have a tattoo. I am a diehard My Chem fan. And I think Gerard Way is brilliant. But I will say, the comics are the one thing that I think that the adaptation that Netflix did is actually better than the source material. I am not really that big of a fan of the comics so far. I mean, they're good, they're entertaining, but like, they don't grip me the way that I've had some comics grip me. I'm excited to finish it up though. Feels kind of heftier than the other 2. Maybe that's my imagination. But it feels pretty thick, so I'm into it. I like the artwork that is in these, so excited to finish that off. So this is a bonus book. If I get to this, cool. If I don't, no big deal. I'm not pushing myself to do it. But Language of Thorns by Leigh Bardugo. And I know I just said I read all the Grishaverse books. I didn't really count this because it's kind of like a little novella situation. From my understanding, it's like the folklore inside of the Grishaverse, like a book that is the folklore. So it's not actually a story, but it's like where within the universe where their stories come from. It's actually is a signed copy. I've had this for ages and never read it because I am weird about novellas and it's really hard for me to get through them. I want to read it just because look at how beautiful some of this is. Like, it's just like illustrated all throughout it. And it's pretty small too, so like if I'm on the plane enough and I have this extra free time, maybe I'll get to this. But it is really beautiful. And that's pretty too. Look at that. Oh, I didn't notice that. It's fancy. Anyway, those are the books that I'm hoping to read in February. If you plan on reading something in February, maybe comment down below. I'm relatively new to booktube, so I'm trying to make friends, and it would be nice to hear what other people are reading. Bye! Okay. You know, it is set in okay.